So I see recording, so we can also cut off the beginning, right?
Yeah, you can.
Show it on your screen too.
It shows like a little red dot saying recording.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello. I'm Elizabeth Dalrymple, and I'm a physical therapist at Activcore Physical Therapy and Performance. And here with me today is Gail Turner-Cooper. She is the founder of Align Health Coaching. She is such a wonderful person, a light in this world, and one of my friends. And I'm really excited that she's here with me today. So, Gail, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm
Oh,
so excited.
great. Yeah, I would love to jump right in and just why don't you start by telling me about your path to becoming a health coach and how you ended up founding Align Health Coaching?
Wow, that is such a fun story. So, in my previous life, I did something completely different, and it was time for a change. It was time to really kind of mix it up and follow my soul's passion, my love passion to serve people.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I had a lot of people ask me for health advice. They knew I led a very healthy life. Plus, I started taking a deep dive into special needs nutrition for my daughter, who is high functioning Asperger's. And
Mm.
then, as well as myself, for GI health. I suffered from GI conditions that I wanted to figure out. Surely there's a better way than just popping a pill and going to see a doctor every 6 months to try and figure out what's going on, right? Surely there's a better way.
Gotta be.
It's got to be a better way. So I started educating myself and taking courses. And then I really realized, oh, this is my true passion. And so I went to IIN, which is one type of certification. But then the real deep dive was the School of Applied Functional Medicine, where I learned so much, so much. And so that's kind of how I became a functional medicine trained health coach.
Wonderful. I think I've heard pieces of that story, but not the whole thing. So it's fun to
Yeah.
hear how that unraveled over time.
Mhm.
And in my world, I think of all the different providers who are complementary to one another, but also have their differences. What would you say is different maybe about your approach as a health coach compared to someone who's a dietitian or who focuses on as a nutritionist? And how would someone really know that you're the person for them?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I really take a more global look at an individual. I want to understand them from what they do as far as routines to set their day up for success. I want to understand how they, of course, eat, but also stress management techniques, right? Stress is such a chronic issue, especially in the United States, but I do feel like it stretches worldwide where the badge of honor is to stay at work super late and just drive yourself so hard living in that sympathetic nervous state system. So I want to understand them as a whole. And then I also want to understand what their daily lifestyle is like. So we can look at making sustainable changes to help them, again, holistically, where maybe a dietitian or a nutritionist, which are extremely valuable people, really focus in on just that nutrition piece. So taking again, a more global look would be at least my style of health coaching. That's what I'm going to focus on.
Definitely. And I think you, yes, just touched on this, that so many of my clients are maybe seeing me for musculoskeletal issues, but they have a lot else going on, other stressors in their life that are creating an environment that's hard for them to heal in because they are in that sympathetic state. And I at times realize, okay, I can work on pieces of this puzzle, but who else do I need to bring in that can, help me address the full picture? And I'm sure the same goes for you. Are there times, and have you seen clients or talked to clients and heard how what you do has positively impacted either their work with a trainer or a physical therapist, other areas of their life in a more physical sense?
Oh, so much so. And I'm so glad you brought that up because it really is not just one person that makes the biggest difference, right? I know my clients who I have recommended to come see someone such as yourself have seen great results. And it's a wonderful marriage to be able to have those beautiful referral partners within your wheelhouse to say, okay, this is not in my scope of practice. However, I really believe that you would be best served for adding something like PT or going to see a psychologist or a therapist to understand and get to the why. You know, being at the functional medicine background, I want to get to the root cause of what's creating someone's dis-ease and understand, not just put a band-aid, but understand and resolve that issue. Someone such as yourself, I imagine, does the very same thing. Like, it's not just a rotator cuff, but why is that rotator cuff hurting? And getting to that root cause and being able to stabilize them. So I definitely think it's a great marriage.
Yes. Yes. I always talk about the victims versus the culprits. It's really
Yes.
easy to find the victim that's yelling really loudly and really hard sometimes to peel back the layers and find the culprit as to why that's happening. And I think that applies across, yes, all kind of pieces of the health field for sure.
Very much so. I think the most common victim culprit that I see is the victim is the gallbladder and the culprit is the liver. So many people come to me that don't have a gallbladder. It's had to have been removed. And trying to educate that client saying, that actually was the victim of the situation. Now we need to address what the culprit is doing. What is
Yes.
the liver doing? Why are we not detoxifying properly?
Yes. Oh, that's interesting to think about. And I just put personalities in my head too, the gallbladder.
Right, right.
And how are they playing their roles in that person's body? That's fascinating. And what are some strategies that you use in trying to help people through these things? I just remember one time we were talking about, going to the grocery store with someone that you're willing to go with them and help them read labels and understand, which I loved how hands-on and practical that is. What other strategies do you use to help people work through their victims and culprits?
Well, you definitely hit upon my favorite one. I love going to the grocery store and helping somebody realize that the ingredients on the back of a label that you cannot pronounce, you may want to think twice about ingesting them.
Mhm.
So that's, I think, hands down my favorite. But other ones that I'll use are, I often ask for blood work and I'll map that out using functional medicine lab work ranges instead of allopathic traditional Western medicine ranges and try and understand a person on a cellular level. I also will use neurolinguistic techniques. So helping that client get to, again, their why and helping them come to their own sense of ownership within a particular strategy that we're working with. Another one is I teach people how to fall in love with their symptoms. So
Mm,
symptoms are the secret language of everyone's unique body, right? So
totally.
if you have a headache, why do you have a headache? Your body is trying to send you a signal saying, hey, by the way, something isn't working, or maybe we're deficient in something. So here's a symptom for you. Going back to that, not wanting to put a band aid on it, I do teach people how to fall in love with their symptoms and say, thank you, body, for giving me the headache. That now I can stop and reflect on what it is I need to be changing so the headache goes away or it doesn't continue to come back. And that's just a mild example. But truly understanding everyone for their uniqueness. No one program that I cover is ever the same, but I do like involving some similar pieces to help people on their wellness journey.
I love that. And I think a lot of us have guilt or other negative kind of built up associations with our pain and with our symptoms. And some of them are really long standing. So I think to change your mindset and acknowledgement of those is huge. And I'm sure you see kind of how that positivity can then impact, kind of creates a positive cycle toward healing rather than going the other direction.
Very much so. You speak magical words. That HPATG healing access starts with the hypothalamus, which are the thoughts. So making sure that you develop a good mindset around you and appreciating you for your uniqueness, and then moving beyond some of the obstacles that are maybe in your way, but in a positive way. So, an example of that is not to say to yourself, I can't have chips and salsa anymore. Instead, it's, oh, I get to make a better decision. So it helps me feel really good and I can be my best me. It's a big mindset shift there, but it really begins that healing cascade, I guess you could say.
Yes, cascade. I like that word. And I know your positivity shines through in every conversation I've had with you. So I can imagine how
Oh,
strong that tool is when you're working with your clients.
thanks so much. I feel the very same about you.
Oh, well, thank you. And speaking of another way, you have inspired me. So we all know I am not the best cook and I'm still very much learning. And so in terms of actual cooking and that act, do you have any favorite cookbooks or any recommendations for people like me who are novices or beginners?
You know, I had a hunch you would ask me this question, so I brought some. I really love the Anti-Inflammatory Diet and Action Plan. I
Okay.
think inflammation is definitely a killer, and we need to make sure we keep it under control. And I also really like the How Not To Die Cookbook. I, first of all, love this title. It's hilarious. And it's got really great recipes in it. They're beautiful pictures. It's lovely. If
Awesome.
you are up for a little more of a challenge, maybe a few more steps involved, both of those are really relatively easy.
Okay.
But I love Bobby Flay's Fit.
Awesome.
It's a great cookbook that if it's on your shelf and maybe you want to pull out one of his deeper dishes that may take you 20 minutes extra, the flavor complexity that he builds is delicious. And then the last one I'll bring is Isa Does It Again. It's kind of a different cover, but this is a vegan cookbook, but really packed full of flavor, very, very easy, and makes wonderful leftovers.
Ooh, I like that. I always like when my effort can last a couple days. So I
For
appreciate
sure.
it. And I'm taking notes on all of those and plan to buy them as soon as we end this interview. And I also think it's nice to have somewhere, you're simpler and maybe more straightforward, or enjoying the night to cook and try something new that might take a little longer. So you can kind of go down whichever you're in the mood for.
Exactly.
Yes, awesome. I know, kind of on another note, that you really specialize in meditation. And I think, especially, in the year of 2020, where a lot of us were dealing with unprecedented levels of stress and just new challenges we obviously couldn't have predicted, we all are having a better appreciation for those self-care measures that are really important. But I know it can also be really hard to get started. And I know I myself am sort of critical of, am I doing it right? And where do I begin? So do you have any strategies that you help, kind of simple tips that you use with people, and or favorite apps to help people get started, to help guide them in that journey?
Absolutely. This is such a touchstone piece for me. I hold meditation near and dear to my heart, mainly because it changed my life for the better. Like the weight of those words, it changed my life for the better. And I
Mhm.
want to impress upon that so people think that, wait a minute, really is something. The superfood for your brain activity really is onto something.
Mhm.
And you're not alone in thinking that maybe, you're not doing it right, or you may get frustrated with, I just can't clear my thoughts. Well, that's secretly not the point. The
Mhm.
point isn't to have this wonderful Buddhist monk clear brain. The point is to allow the thoughts to come out and go away. So, my favorite saying is, thoughts are going to come to visit. Do not invite them in for tea, meaning don't ruminate on them, right? Allow them to bubble up and drift away. So
Mhm.
you're not cramming them back down. And it may take a little bit to reap the rewards of this beautiful, truly soul healing activity.
Mhm.
It may be 2 weeks before you start to notice something different. And it's a subtle shift that happens. Your fuse gets a lot longer. So you may notice someone cuts you off in traffic and you no longer honk the horn. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, maybe I'm a little impressed with myself. I didn't freak out. Or maybe someone's, I don't know why I'm using traffic examples, but maybe someone's sitting at a red light or a green light for just 5 seconds too long, right? And you don't lay on the horn. You're like, it's okay. They're going to eventually move. They'll see. And I think those are some of the first key pieces that I personally noticed.
Mm.
And then the trick is when everybody else around you starts to notice all these beautiful benefits, like, oh, something's different about you, or you seem really calm today. Or a client of mine responded that someone had mentioned to him he felt really grounded. And he's like, I've never in my life had someone refer to me as grounded before. His
Mhm.
meditation practice. So I think really to impress upon people that it's not about that perfect, crystal clear brain, right? I want the thoughts to come up and go out, but no ruminating on them, no focusing and getting out of meditation and writing down something on your to-do list. If it's that important, it'll come back. I
Right.
personally practice Transcendental Meditation,
Mhm.
which is a practice I've done for years. And that's the one that changed my life. But some
Mm.
people just aren't ready for such a long duration of meditation because it really is at 23 minutes twice a day.
Mm.
And maybe I'll start off with maybe you sit in a chair for 5 minutes with your feet on the ground, your hands in your lap, you're paying attention to your breath. And
Mhm.
then maybe you graduate to 10 minutes and
Mhm.
maybe it's 15 minutes and maybe that's where you stop and that's okay too. Or if you don't appreciate a silent meditation, maybe you want to go into like a Calm app or Headspace or Insight Timer.
Mhm.
Or you can do walking meditations and mindfulness practices and maybe
Mm.
do those by yourself where you feel the earth beneath your feet and you recognize each individual leaf and how the leaf looks on the tree. And you bring some mindfulness practices into that walking meditation.
Mm. That's a neat concept to combine the movement as a piece of the meditation rather than having them conflict. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
There's no wrong way.
right, which is probably the most important takeaway.
Exactly.
For someone who's type A or right is trying to master the practice, know that it's going to take time
Yeah.
and right that there's that 5 to 10. There's ways to start small and then make it bigger as it becomes a more positive presence in your life.
Very well said.
Um, well, so along with that, you just gave some really helpful tips for meditation. So thank you. And along with that, just thinking of the month of January and the start of a new year when a lot of people try and make these changes and do new things. And what would, if you could pick just three kind of small, simple pieces of advice to help people stick to those? And we're getting to the end of the month where things start to fall by the wayside. What would you say to try and help people stick with some of these commitments they've made?
I would say the first thing is build a healthy routine. Bookend your day. It's one of the two secret ingredients to the secret sauce, what I say.
Mhm.
Routine is number one, and then planning, be that meal planning, be that some sort of planning in your life, is number two.
Mhm.
But the second one I would say is to get an accountability partner. If
Mm.
you're the type of person like me for working out, where if I am not held accountable, I may not show up, right? So I need an accountability partner.
Mhm.
I would get one. That's very, very helpful. And the third would be to understand and identify what your triggers are
Mm.
for falling off track. Write those down. Bringing awareness to a particular subject matter really helps. So, understanding what are my triggers and then what are my boundaries? What am I to stay within for myself? Don't make them too tight. Otherwise, your inner self may rebel against those. So, understand like, okay, if my boundaries are here, maybe I'm rebelling. Widen those out a little bit and give yourself some grace. And
Mm.
then I would say if you were going to ask me maybe, what would be three big things that people could do to make a big difference in their lives?
Yes.
Cut and reduce sugar.
Mhm.
Take time, get your sleep. And that's 7+ hours of sleep. And then keep moving your body. Stay
Mm.
active. Even in the winter months, stay active.
Yes, I love that. Very tangible, very approachable. And the last one, motion is lotion in particular.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
they're great. Awesome. Thank you so much. This is so much helpful information for me, for I know many of my clients, and for so many people. So thank you for sharing all of that. It's inside your brain that you know have a gift to share with us.
Oh, thank you so much again for the invitation.
Of course. And I would love to hear if someone wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, great. So you can reach out to me via my website, which is alignhealthcoaching.com. You can call me at 404-401-6226 or shoot me an email at Gail, Gail, at alignhealthcoaching.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time and you being here. And it was so fun to spend the hour with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Great to see you as usual.
All right. We'll talk soon.